Greetings, Starfighters. Welcome to the Season 6 wrap-up episode of Shameless Cashgrab, this time with sound. Yeah, this is actually my second attempt at filming this. First one was 22 minutes. The raw video was 22 minutes. It probably would have been shorter once I cut down some extraneous stuff before sending it to Mom to edit. But, guess who forgot to turn the microphone on? Alright, well, anyway, before we get started with the countdown, this season's countdown voice is none other than Creature SH. You may know them as the guy who did the banner image for this very channel, which you've seen if you've been to this channel's main page, and you've been there, right? Like, when you went to subscribe. Right. You may also know him as Diamanda Hagen's Photoshop artist. They've done quite a bit of work for Hagen over the years. And if you're not subscribed to both of us, both Diamanda Hagen and myself, why? Anyway, let's go ahead and get this countdown started with what is by far the biggest disappointment, not just of this season, but quite possibly of the series.
Number 7. Zombie Shark, aka Shark Island.
You know, Zombie Shark, the title, Zombie Shark, was why I bought this set in the first place. So the fact that it ended up being so terrible just kind of hurts, you know? For many reasons, really. Most of which I got into in the actual episode itself, although I do need to apologize a little bit here. I misused the term gaslighting in that episode. What the main character's boyfriend and mother were doing was certainly shitty and manipulative, but gaslighting refers to a very specific form of emotional abuse, and that is not what was going on in that movie. Honestly, lots of people have been misusing the term gaslighting nowadays, and it's been mainly liberals doing it, and because of the previous presidential administration, President Agent Orange. But, while Toupee Fiasco certainly was lying a lot and definitely manipulative and definitely abusive to his family and inner circles and whatnot, yeah, the Tangerine Taint was, I'm sure he's gaslit people before. But, Cheeto Benito was a fascist. And while I don't doubt that a lot of gaslighters have fascist leanings, they don't all. It's complicated. Psychological people are complicated. The point is, I misused the term gaslighting in the Zombie Shark episode, and I'm sorry. Getting back to the movie. Wow, that was rambling. I complained in the movie about the tragic ending, and I do think I made it pretty clear in the episode itself that had the whole movie been like that, I would not have had a problem. But just to really hammer that point home, I want to talk about a movie that I actually love for a second. Georgie Romero's Night of the Living Dead. Great movie. Sad and tragic ending. Just really sad and tragic ending, and if you haven't seen it, good God, why not? But the thing is, that worked because it fit not just with the tone of the movie, but also with the themes of the movie. Zombie Shark, it just seemed to be put in there for no other reason than to just kick the main character while she was down, after she'd already gotten her catharsis, which is generally the point where these kinds of movies end. I really don't know why the shoehorned tragic ending was necessary. It didn't help the movie any. Honestly, it hurt it. I was already not liking it up to that point, but that just completely ruined it.
Number 6. Santa Jaws.
How do you make a movie with the name Santa Jaws, with a shark that looks like the one on the poster, although the poster doesn't show off like the teeth made out of broken Christmas ornaments? How do you make something like that boring? Look, it was never going to be, good. but it could have at least been fun. I mean, I'm going to get into this a little bit more with number 3, but there is a benefit to just sort of leaning into the ridiculous, just giving into the absurd. Santa Jaws could have benefited so much just from doing that. I mean, they could have changed like absolutely nothing else about it and just leaned into the silly, and it would have been a much better movie. But as it stands, it's just kind of dull.
Number 5. Ozark Sharks, aka Summer Shark Attack.
Execution matters. And Ozark Sharks largely fails on execution. It's definitely not the worst movie in this set. Well, obviously, I just talked about 2 movies that I disliked more than it. But it has a thing in it that I don't particularly care for, where a character who's like kind of through line through the movie has been at best unhelpful and at worst downright selfish, and then when they try to help, they just like die like almost immediately. Now, the number 1 movie on this set actually has a scene like that too, but it is played for laughs and it's kind of making fun of itself. A little more on that when I actually get to that movie. So I can let that slide, but I couldn't really do that here. Now, it would be really easy to write off the death of the main character's boyfriend in Ozark Sharks as being as like mean-spirited and whatnot as the death of the main character's sister in Zombie Shark, but it's really not. It's just kind of, oh, really? Was that necessary? I didn't feel insulted by it at all. Just like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing that then, huh? Now, granted, killing off the comic relief character to show that shit's gotten real is, a time-honored trope. I mean, even Joss Whedon, the slimy piece of shit, could do that, right? Your mileage may vary on that. But here it's just like, I mean, there was only 1 shark left anyway, and the main character already had cause for catharsis because she saw the sharks kill her grandmother, who seemed to be the member of her family that she had the most connection to. So, I mean, it was just kind of pointless, I guess. It wasn't, like, mean. Okay, here's the thing. People die in these kinds of movies. That's just kind of just how it goes. And you may have noticed if you've watched all the previous episodes in this season, and if not, why are you watching this one, that I didn't complain about most of the deaths unless it was something mean-spirited like in Zombie Shark, or if there were unfortunate implications like the one black guy in Alligator Alley dying. More on that later. Or if it was badly edited. But yeah, it's just kind of all right. I guess we're doing this. Was this really necessary? Like, or okay, if they were going to kill that character, they should have done it sooner when there was more than 1 shark left to go. I think that would have improved the movie a little bit. I think it's not so much that he died. I think that he just died in the wrong place. This is way different than Zombie Shark, where I don't think they should have killed that character off to begin with. But okay, enough about that one. I also need to move on to the next movie because even though I've left the fan on, you probably didn't hear it. Sorry about that, but it is so hot. You have no idea. This is probably the only day this week I'm going to be able to get this done. I am just all over the place. I'm moving track. I mean, I forgot to turn on the microphone the first time I tried to record this. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie on the list, which is
Number 4. Swamp Shark. Do you too suffer from swamp shark? Fear not. Mr. Wenko's patented dry powder will keep your privates drivates.
how did this movie end up as high as it was? Considering how much I complained about the movie just completely whiffing it when it came to its R rating. And the fact that I have good cause to despise 2 of the film's lead actors. Why is it up here? Well, for starters, it's just not as bad as Zombie Shark, and it's not boring like Santa Jaws. And admittedly, it was a bit more fun to watch than Ozark Sharks. I'm still kind of amazed that they got a halfway decent acting performance out of Christy Swanson for this. It's like, how did that happen? But yeah, again, this movie's Swamp Shark's cardinal sin is just not taking advantage of its R rating. It probably shouldn't have had an R rating to begin with. It's just so, well, no, not bloodless. Obviously, I mean, even the ones that were definitely on the Sci-Fi Channel, the ones that had no rating whatsoever, had plenty of blood. But it felt like a TV movie. So again, I know I harp on this a lot. I harped on it in the video for the episode for the movie. I'm harping on it here. Why did it have an R rating? I mean, at least at least like the animal smuggling guy got his comeuppance. That was nice. But, yeah, I mean, it's just, and again, it's not horrible like Zombie Shark, and I think I already said, not boring like Santa Jaws. It's just kind of okay. So I guess it's kind of fitting that it's the middle movie out of these in this 7-movie set. But that takes us to
Number 3. Alligator Alley, aka Ragin' Cajun Redneck Gators. Ah yeah, remember the Ragin' Cajun Redneck Gators? My favorite tag team in IWA Mid-South.
Alligator Alley. Oh boy. Well, for starters, it probably should have kept the original title, Ragin' Cajun Redneck Gators. It's completely appropriate because, I mean, it is what it is. The Gators have rednecks. It's set in Louisiana. I think it might have actually even been filmed in Louisiana. The point is, it does what Santa Jaws completely failed to do, and that's lean into the inherent silliness of its premise. And that, pretty much more than anything, is what salvages it and gets it put into like the top half this season. And you know what? Again, as I keep saying, the more distance I put between watching the movie and like talking about it, the more I'm honestly okay with that ending, even with all its implications. Now, I mean, honestly, I had enough fun that there was, for a moment, I was considering actually putting it in the number 2 spot. But ultimately, I couldn't, and I touched on this earlier. The movie had one black character, and he dies. And again, here's the thing: I don't necessarily think anyone should be off limits in this kind of movie. These killer animal movies are kind of a subset of horror films, and I don't think anyone should be necessarily automatically safe in a horror film. Not even prepubescent children, honestly. Although, if you're going to do that, you got to be really careful. I mean, even Wes Craven probably did the smart thing in having all of, like, the Nightmare on Elm Street's prepubescent deaths happen off screen and focusing on, like, the teenagers and the adults. But, I mean, like, if you have a horror movie like, say, the new Candyman reboot that's out, if it's black filmmakers, a mostly black cast, then yeah, some black people in those movies are going to die. But when you have a movie like this where you have like one black character and they die, that's a really unfortunate trope. And it's one that I am just not fond of, despite, obviously being a white guy. It's like, yeah, I know I may not look that white right now, but that's sunburn. And that's also why the number 2 movie that's coming up in a moment is number 2 instead of number 1. But I'll get into that. But yeah, you could honestly, if you like killer animal movies, I think you will really like Alligator Alley. I'll even go so far as to say I think that it probably deserves more positive reviews on Letterboxd than it got. I'll allow for the possibility that maybe it's because the movie I'd watched before this was Zombie Shark, and I was just that happy that it wasn't that bad. And oh my god, I unplugged. Sorry about that jump cut there, the noise, and I got distracted. Point is, what was I saying? Yeah, if you like the killer animal movies, I think you would actually enjoy Alligator Alley. So yeah, in a weird way, I actually kind of recommend it more than the top 2, even though I think the top 2 are better movies. Well, No, actually, no. I'll go ahead and recommend the top two too. That was a sentence that actually makes sense in English, even though it sounds like it shouldn't. And my language is weird. But okay, so I'm gonna kind of need to talk about one and two together to explain why. And the word "rights" is like almost completely gone on this thing. This is what I get for ordering off a Redbubble. So let's just go ahead and announce number two and number one, because I do feel like I kind of need to talk about them together in order to explain why number two is number two and number one is number one. So, first up,
Number 2. Ghost Shark. There is a shark that haunts your hood. Who you gonna call? Ghost Brody.
and then
Number 1. Mississippi River Sharks.
okay, so I mentioned before the trope that I'm not a fan of, where the only black character in a horror movie dies. That's pretty much why Ghost Shark is number two instead of number one, although for a couple of months there, it really looked like it was going to be number one. Now, while not every, it does have, it has more than one black character, more than one with a name, more than one with dialogue. Problem is, most of them die. Not like there are plenty of people of color in the movie who survive, but like I don't remember if any of them had so much as a single line of dialogue, and I am even more certain that none of the ones who survived had names. So that's why Ghost Shark is below Mississippi River Sharks. Now, to Ghost Shark's credit, just as a movie, the shark kills are actually fairly creative. Probably some of the most creative in the whole set. I mean, it could have been more so, but I mean, it was being made for TV, so it had the budget and network censors to deal with. I think, oh my god. Sorry about that. I got completely derailed. You heard the phone going off again just before the last cut. Sorry about that. Where was I? Yeah, okay. Budget, network censors. Okay. Another thing that Ghost Shark has going for it is the performance of Richard Mall. The guy has been a long-running character actor for a reason. It's definitely more to do than just his height. The guy is actually talented. And I think, if anything, he might have actually given a better performance than this movie necessarily deserved. It is definitely a highlight. Probably some of the best acting of the whole set, and I'm including the movie that I put at number one here. So, I think I already mentioned it. The tiebreaker was how the movie treated the black characters. So, Mississippi River Sharks. Most of the black characters that have names and dialogue survive. And mixed race couple that gets a happy ending, and nobody makes a huge deal out of it. That's a positive, because something that happened in both Ozark Sharks and Swamp Sharks, you had mixed race couples in those movies, but one or both partners got eaten. Now, to be fair, I doubt that was intentional on the part of the filmmakers, but it's still kind of, you know. Mississippi River Sharks does not have that problem. In fact, Mississippi River Sharks, the more I think about it, and the more I realize that a lot of the movies that came after it in a set were made before it in terms of production. So I'm thinking that Mississippi River Sharks might have actually been the sub-genre of killer shark movies made specifically for the Sci-Fi Channel. Mississippi River Sharks was sort of a self-parody. There are a lot of jokes in it that, again, actually make a little more sense to me once I have seen the other movies on the set. Again, even though those movies were made before it. Particularly the thing with Jason London playing himself, because he's in a lot of these movies. He plays himself as a complete narcissist. He does have that thing in the movie where he's being completely unhelpful until he decides to try and actually be helpful and then immediately dies. But again, because it's played for laughs, I don't have as much of a problem with that as I had with it, like in Zombie Shark, or even in. I think there was a scene like that in Swamp Shark too. Now that I think about it, but yeah, it's definitely funny because I think it's kind of making fun. It's making fun of its own sub genre. Like I said, I am sorry, it is so hot in here. And you have the mixed race couple that gets the happy ending. Pretty much every intentional joke lands to varying degrees. I mean, from just a sensible chuckle to an all-out laugh. And now the downside is like a lot of the shark kills in it aren't anywhere near as creative as Ghost Shark or honestly any of the other movies, if we're being completely honest here. But again, it seems to be more about the meta humor of making fun of itself and its genre than just being a straightforward killer shark movie. And I'm a little bit of a sucker for meta humor. I mean, not every meta joke that I see is going to work for me, but I appreciate it when it is well done. And I think in Mississippi River Shark's case, the meta humor works. And that, plus the better treatment of its non-white characters, that is why, despite some of its shortcomings, I ultimately decided to put it above Ghost Shark. So yeah, surprising even myself, and I imagine surprising those of you who were following this season, Mississippi River Sharks gets the title of Best Movie in the Set. What more is there to say to that then?
Oh, crap. I promised a bonus shark fact for this season in this episode. Okay, Mom, just drop this in anywhere you think it can fit. Okay, so the bonus shark fact that I wanted to include for the season 6 wrap-up episode, because we had an alligator fact at the end of the season, I was actually not aware of this. I mean, I knew the number was big, but there are over 500 species of shark out there. Over 500. That's a pretty cool fact. And another less cool, but still kind of cool considering the alternative fact. Only, well, I say only with huge air quotes because this is still not great, but compared to how many I expected, only 143 of those species are currently on the endangered list. Well, it's a mix of those that are fully endangered and those that are not quite endangered but could get there. But yeah, I honestly thought it would be more than 143. I actually have that low an opinion of humans as a species. Well, anyway, back to the countdown. Unless this gets put after the countdown, then back to me introducing season 7. Look, I don't know where this is going.
But yeah, so yeah, there we are. Season 6. Oh boy. Well, good news is, pretty, let's say about 2/3, maybe all if I get really lucky, of season 7's episodes are going to be made during the cooler months, or at least what passes for cooler months in Southern California with catastrophic climate change on a roll. So hopefully those episodes are not going to get as rambly as this wrap-up has been. It's like, I bet if I go back and watch the previous 5 season wrap-up episodes, none of them are going to be as rambly as this shit was. But yeah, so big thanks to the person whose name I am now completely forgetting, who did the title card for season 6, because they also have done the title card for season 7, which you're going to see in a second. And speaking of season 7, fantasy movies. It's Once Upon. Rather unfortunate that it's kind of got the Harry Potter font going in there. That's, but yeah, fantasy movies. Kind of looking forward to some of these. There's one movie that Diamanda Hagen and Film Brain actually reviewed once, so I know that that's going to be bad. And there's a movie in here whose cast includes a recently convicted sexual predator, so that's... I really should start looking at the cast lists before I buy these sets, shouldn't I? Well, anyway, see you next season for a Flight of Fantasy. I don't think that joke works.
Oh, crap. I promised a bonus shark fact for this season in this episode. Okay, Mom, just drop this in anywhere you think it can fit. Okay, so, the bonus shark fact that I wanted to include for the season 6 wrap-up episode, because we had an alligator fact at the end of the season, I was actually not aware of this. I mean, I knew the number was big, but there are over 500 species of shark out there. Over 500. That's a pretty cool fact. And another less cool, but still kind of cool considering the alternative fact. Only, well, I say only with huge air quotes because this is still not great, but compared to how many I expected, only 143 of those species are currently on the endangered list. Well, it's a mix of those that are fully endangered and those that are not quite endangered but could get there. But yeah, I honestly thought it would be more than 143. I actually have that low an opinion of humans as a species. Well, anyway, back to the countdown. Unless this gets put after the countdown, then back to me introducing season 7. Look, I don't know where this is going.